Now, by the way, I mean, saying that Western civilization has its root in the Viking expansion is quite controversial, just to let you know. This isn't something you'll read in most mainstream Western historical textbooks or anything like that. And this is some of the things that some of the themes that we'll be exploring during the course, because the history of the Western civilization has been written by themselves. The writing of that history started mainly in the 19th century, when the European powers had become global colonial superpowers, and they were writing their history of their civilization. So a lot of what they wrote was a little bit of fantasy mixed in with the facts. Um, which is a sort of, probably a natural bias that does come up when anyone is writing about their own people. But they were painting their history very positively and because they were colonizing many lands, and they had a very strong sense of superiority over the colonized people. So part of that was in writing the history of their civilization. So they wrote a sort of mixture of fact and fantasy. The fantasy about how they were descended from the Greeks. The ancient Greeks were into science and philosophy. So Western Europe had inherited that sort of tradition. So they didn't really highlight the Viking and the Norman part of their heritage. So what I'm going to argue throughout this course is that actually the Viking invasions of Western and Northern Europe, and Eastern Europe as well, all the way into Russia, were very, very significant event. And the Normans were descended from the Vikings. And the Normans, they spread throughout Europe as well. As you know, they invaded England, right? So England became a Norman colony, but they also had Norman kingdoms all over Europe. So these people became the hierarchy of Western Europe. Yeah. But that part of their history is very much sidelined within Western history textbooks, because it's not. I mean, the Vikings. Who wants to? Vikings are associated with really, really nasty people. Yeah, barbaric people. They're almost like a. It's almost like the name Viking itself. It's associated with complete and utter horrific acts of barbarism and all that stuff. So no one wants to be claiming that their civilization is basically descended from Viking people. So it's quite controversial. So just bear that in mind. So wherever I bring in something that may not be mainstream or maybe my opinion, I will alert you to those aspects so you can use your own brains and your own objective study to come to your own conclusions.